Good morning.
Thank you. Thanks, and welcome to another weekly FEBE meeting that we have. Our morning FEBE is every Wednesday from our 10 to 11 hour here. Sponsor Dunkin' Donuts from across the street, as well as at Camp's Corners and our Dunkin' Donuts on 58. Please make sure that you sign in at your table. They're sign-in sheets. And I'm just going to go ahead and turn things over to Mr. Danny Smith, and he's going to tell you a little bit about himself and go from there. So thank you
very much. Good morning, everybody. I am just delighted to be here with you on a lovely summer morning, even though it's still spring. I'd like to thank my associate and friend, Matt Awesome, for inviting me, and I'd like to introduce you to Erica Cruz, who is our paraplanner at our office, our business concierge, and also does our marketing. So Danny Smith, call me Danny, call me Smitty. I grew up in South Lorain. I graduated from Lorain Admiral King in 1968. I worked at the old Hills Department Store. Anybody remember Hills Department Stores? Yep. Out on Route 57 or Grove Avenue. And I worked for Hills for 14 years. And I entered in the insurance business with Mutual of Omaha in 1980. My wife and I moved back from Nashville, Tennessee. That was the last Hill store I worked at. And so since then, I've raised my family in my home that I grew up in on East 37th Street in Lorain, I'm very proud to say. And my wife and I now live in Avon. We have a multi-generational home, you know, about the sandwich generation. We have my wife's mom, and we have my daughter Jessica, who lives with her, thank goodness, soon-to-be husband, Stephen, and our grandson, Julian. So we have a big house and a lot of people, and we're happy to do that. So today, I'm going to talk about the importance for small business owners to have a business valuation and some of the benefits to that. Like you, I am a small business owner, and I'll be starting my 37th year as a small business owner. And I face the same challenges and the same issues that every small business owner faces. That would be, you know, everything from making sure that the parking lot gets cleared when it snows to making sure the lights get turned on. And, you know, I've made a lot of great business decisions. And maybe like some of you, I've made some poor business decisions. But that's the advantage of small businesses, is that you can kind of roll with the flow. So business valuation, if you'd like to take a look at the handout, we brought you some stuff, not all of which we'll go over, so a lot of takeaways. But, you know, just to set the table, most people try to keep track of their assets. A lot of people know exactly how much money they have in their wallet, but we keep track of bigger assets, our home, our cars, our valuables, things like that. For your home, you can just, if you go on Google and you Google your address, a picture of your house is going to come up, or your business, you know, how they got that in there. And you can go to Zillow.com. If you go to Zillow and put in the address of your home, it'll come up with a reasonable market price of what your home may be worth. So it's easy to find out values of things like that, but for small businesses, it's a little more difficult to come up with a valuation. So why would you want to know the value of your business? Why would that be a good idea? Somebody give me an example of why that might be a good idea.
If something happens and you have to sell it, you want to know what
Yeah.
the value is.
Right. Anybody else?
Depending on your business and the value of the business, you can use it as collateral if you want to expand.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a good idea to have, you know, in your desk drawer an appraisal about what the business would be worth from a third party, disinterested, just to give you an idea. So I got some bullets here about why that might be a good idea. If we go over to the second page, it's just a good idea to know what your business is worth. A valuation typically includes a peer group comparison. You know, now that we know what your business is worth, how's it compared to other similar structured businesses? Are you above or below the line? Are you right at the line? It would be a good idea to know what the competition's up to. It shows the direction of the industry that you may be in. Okay, is that industry pointing upward, downward? You know, if it's the turn of the century, you know, and you're in the buggy whip the turn of the 20th century. If you're in the buggy whip industry, sales may be good, but when that first Model T drives by, you might want to be thinking about finding a different business. Evaluates the saleability of your business. Part of the business valuation can include, how easy is it to sell a business like that? Are there more buyers than sellers, or sellers than buyers? It's kind of like real estate. That would be helpful to you. It can help you restructure your business debt. It's always a good idea. Most businesses have debt. They run, when I go into speak to younger people, I ask them what are the three most important letters in finance. The three most important letters, OPM. Anybody know what that means?
Other people's money.
Other people's money, sure, yeah. Businesses are built on other people's money, for goodness sake. Could be the banks, the stockholders, okay? OPM is what makes the financial world go, and it would be a good idea to try to structure debt accordingly, because debt is an expense. So evaluation helps. It provides a risk evaluation. What we do when we do evaluation is we look at the value of the business, but we also want to look at the liabilities that that business might face. People tell me all the time, well, I have a limited liability company or a sub-S corporation or a C corp. Well, why did you do that? Well, one of the reasons people do that is because they want to protect their personal assets from some potential liability in their business, right? There's other reasons, but that's the main reason. That's why I did it years ago. Now, a lot of times we'll do a business valuation, and we'll compare the value of the business to the value of the personal assets. You might have $1 million business, I hope you do, and $250,000 of personal assets. So the personal assets are protected, but not the business. And the business asset is your largest asset. So we always want to find out what the value of the business is, and then from a financial perspective, take a look to see if your liability coverage matches that. Because if you have a litigation, and I hope you never do, if your liability is below what you're found at fault for, I got news for you. The business may have to come up with the difference. And remember, that's your biggest asset in many cases. It provides insight into the potential dangers and weaknesses of existing succession plan. Anybody in here have a succession plan? Who do I hand the ball off to if something happens to me? That's one of the most common foibles in the small business arena, and also in financial services that I'm in. What happens to the business if something happens to me? And that's a question we all face as business owners, because we've put our heart and soul into our businesses in most cases, right? And we don't want to see it all come tumbling down. And having a business succession plan is something that can be helpful when you have your business valuation, because if you're recruiting or looking for people that you might want to bring into the business eventually, it's very helpful to show them, hey, we're a thriving business, we're a profitable business, here's the value of the business, because you're recruiting someone in many cases as a small business owner with potential to take the business over someday. So again, you have someone to hand the ball off to. So the valuation is more than just having that number on a piece of paper. It's all the things that you can leverage from that. If you're looking to bring in a partner of some kind, you need a value to have a buy-sell. Anybody know what a buy-sell agreement is? You ever hear of that? Yeah, some people, yes. It's a way where that if you're in a partnership or you have people that might want to buy the business from you eventually, they're now in your employ, you want to have something in writing to protect you and to protect them, and you'd want to have a value of the business to determine, well, what is it we're protecting and what happens down the road when I decide to move on. Now here's an important one. It helps avoid family conflicts. And I put in brackets there the stories I can tell. I've been doing this. I'll start my 37th year in June. So I've done a lot of work with businesses, and again, they're mostly small businesses. I don't work with big corporations. I know my sweet spot is working with fellow small business owners. That's who I like to work with. A lot of them have kids. Some of them are in the business, some of them aren't. And when they're all together, it's one big happy family. Everybody's hugging and kissing, but then when the kids come in individually to see me, they say, well, you know, I did all the work. I helped build Dad's business, and I had to get more out of it than my sister. She doesn't come around, and her husband thinks that he's going to run the business when Dad. You'd be surprised about what can happen in small business, and maybe some of you have had that experience. We kind of help mitigate that, and we try to put processes in place to keep that happening, because the last thing that you want in a more mature business is to have family members at odds with each other. And believe me, it happens. And it doesn't just happen with Fortune 500 companies where there's millions of dollars at stake. Again, you wouldn't believe some of the things that I've seen and heard from people that you would otherwise expect that wouldn't say that, because there's money involved. It helps answer the what ifs. A lot of business owners will come in and we'll talk, and they'll say, well, Danny, what if this happens, or what if that happens? Well, again, it starts with evaluation of the business, and we can then keep track of those questions, and we work with a business valuation team. I don't personally do the valuations for my business clients. I have a team that does that, and we can have a lot of what ifs, questions that the business owners have that are unique to your business or to your own situation that really don't show up in the valuation. I can give you an example. If I'm working with a small business owner and he or she says, you know, Danny, I haven't really let anybody outside of the family know this, but I have a health condition I found out I had, okay? What if and it's always going to be, you know, what if I get sick? What if I can't come to work, okay? We try to help answer those questions. I don't do the medical side. I hope you get better, but you'd be surprised what happens in a small business when one of those what ifs pop up. And it's good to address those. Now, we also do an include of, we review employee benefits if you offer benefits. Not every small business does. And often the small business owner will say, well, I got a couple employees, their benefit is I gave them a job. Okay, but other companies have benefits, or you might have a retirement plan. And it's always a good idea to have a third party come in and just see if they're, economically, if you're getting bang for your buck. Does it make sense to offer benefits today? For example, health benefits. It's the big quandary about should I or shouldn't I, because they're so darn expensive, okay? The number one reason that people who used to want to retire at 60, for example, instead of 65, the number one reason that they don't retire, would you like to know what that is? Take a guess. Health costs, because employers used to have a legacy plan. They'd say, don't worry, when you retire after 40 years, we're going to pay your health insurance till at least you go on Medicare. Nobody does that anymore, okay? And when people come in and say, well, you know, Danny, what's the insurance going to cost? My associate, El Zagantz, couldn't be with us this morning. He's a Lorain guy. He'll sit down with you, and he'll show you what the costs are going to be. And then you might say, well, why don't we go on the Affordable Care Act website? And I have no gripe at all with every American having health care, but the Affordable Care Act is still very expensive for people to get into their 60s. You know, I'll be 66 in a couple of weeks. So last year when I turned 65, my own personal family expense for medical costs dropped by $5,000 a year. I went on Medicare. I didn't have to pay Medical Mutual anymore, a good company. That high premium for a 64-year, I went on Medicare and saved a lot of money doing it. And I have no gripe with Medicare. No? So number one reason older people can't retire is because they can't afford to pay the health care costs. It gives you an opportunity to directly interact with the planning team. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So if you use a service that my firm offers or other similar firms, okay, we can gather all the information we need. We do have to collect hard numbers, you know, taxes, profit and loss, and so forth. But eventually, when the valuation comes back or when they're working on the valuation, if there's questions, you can come in, we can set up a conference, and you can talk to the people, particularly if you're not happy about the value of your business. You know, you think it's worth a lot more than the valuation comes back at. You know, don't shoot the messenger. We'll bring in, you can talk to the people, and they'll tell you why they came up with what they did. Maybe there were some numbers that they got wrong, who knows. Okay? Another example I will give you that I've personally been involved in is you might think that a business owner always wants his or her valuation to come back on the high side. I mean, it's your business. Why would you want it to be worth anything but the highest level, right? So here's an example I did. I was consulted just last year. We went out to Stowe, Ohio, myself and an associate, and met a business owner, a lady. Very nice lady. Her and her mom started this company and built it up, and I mean, the phone was ringing off the hook. They were doing a form of marketing, so they weren't manufacturing, they were providing a service, okay? And wanted to know the valuation of the business, and I thought I could help. And so I got to talking with her. And, you know, having been in business for a long time, you've all worked with the public for a long time, you know, you can kind of perceive something sometimes where maybe something's going on under the hood that you're not aware of. And I said, you know, it sounds to me like you really don't want to have your business valued at a very high amount, because you know, everything I would talk about bringing it up in value, she countered with. And I said, do you mind if I ask you a question before we go any further? It's a personal question. Do you mind if I ask a question? She said, no. I said, are you sure? She said, go ahead, Danny, ask. Are you married? She said, yes. Are you in the process of separating or getting a divorce? Yes. And I knew right away why she asked, because the husband had put some of his money into the business, okay? And her mom built the business. Now, if there's one quick way I know to lose about half of everything you own, get divorced, okay? So what she wanted was a low valuation, because she didn't want to give that SOB any more than he had. But if I'd have talked to him, he'd say, no, 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 that business is worth a lot of money, and because he wants to get a return on the money that he paid in. So sometimes when you do a valuation, you find things that aren't always as they seem, and it's very interesting when you move into things like that, as unfortunate as divorce would be. It helps avoid, and this may be the most important for all small business owners, again, whether you're manufacturing, whether you're selling a service, whether you're doing a little bit of both. You know, there are really, I skipped this on the front, I apologize. The three most common methods of valuation on the front page. One would be income-based, market-based, and asset-based. Now today, due to time constraints, I'm not going to go into that, but in detail, because you'd learn more about that as you went through the valuation process. Because there's, again, hard to always come up with a value of a business, particularly, I'm sure a lot of you in this room, I would be surprised if most of you aren't in a business that has some unique quality to it, or maybe you're the only one in the area that does it, maybe you're the only one in the country that does it. And I love to watch the Antiques Roadshow. Anybody ever watch that? You know, it's hard to value something that's not comparable, right? If you have a Picasso, there's other Picassos, right? But if you have something that's, you know, irreplaceable, but there's no comparable, it's really harder to come up because there's nothing to compare it with. The same is true in the real estate business. So, you know, we'll talk a little bit about expenses and what's it cost to have a valuation done, or does it cost anything at all? But who wants to take a guess at what the number one, by far the most expensive way or method that is to have your business valuated? It's called the courtroom method. Okay, it's the courtroom method. When there is a no business valuation, and there's a death, or there's a stockholders debate or whatever, or there's a divorce, okay? If you don't have a valuation, the couple in Stowe, Ohio, didn't have any way to value the business. She wanted it low, he wanted it high. When it gets into the court, it's going to be the most expensive way, because some valuation processes do have a fee, but they don't come close to what the attorneys charge, okay? And I'm not going to, this is not, you know, if you're an attorney, God bless you, but that's the most expensive way to go, because it's in court now, and a judge is going to decide the value of your business. And you know, if you don't like it, once the judge decides, it's tough luck. That's the value. Whereas if you had a valuation done by a third party, you can come in and at least there's something to negotiate, you know. And I have had instances where it was a partnership, okay, and again, the one partner thought the business was worth a lot more than the other partner did for lots of reasons. And when they asked me, I said, why don't we bring in this firm and have a third party that's well respected come up with a valuation, because it's going to be cheaper for each of you to pay 1/2 than for both of you to pay, and it just doesn't make sense. And that's what they did, and they eventually reached a resolution on that. Okay? So, last but not least, you should consider the 3 Ds of risk that we all face as business. I've already talked about one of them, but there's 3 ways that a small business can lose half of its value or more in the wink of an eye. One of them is divorce, the 3 Ds. Death, disability, divorce. Okay? Small business owner dies, the value of that business is going to be affected if you're synonymous with the business. And I'm in that same category, because we build a relationship. It's not the products, it's the relationship. I buy my cars at a certain dealership. I like GM cars. Everybody has a preference. I don't buy my cars from GM, I buy them from the dealer, because there's a relationship there. So death is a quick way to lose the value of a business. Disability. Okay? What happens when you can't come to work and you're disabled? Younger people have a much larger propensity for disability that might happen. Death is inevitable for all of us, but those should be things that should be addressed, because again, you know, we put our blood, sweat, and tears in our business, and in the blink of an eye, we can lose the value. There's a business right in this area. The guy was in 2 years ago. He brought in his legal document. I give everybody up to 60-minute discovery session. They can come in, talk about whatever you want to talk about. You don't have to hire me. You know, I help to make a friend, and I don't charge for that. So you get an initial consultation. I pointed out several things that I could see based on his age, his health at that time, his family situation, that were going to be a problem in the future, and not the too far future. He didn't want to listen. Okay? And my friend came in the other day. He said, Danny, remember the guy who came in? The business is going out of business because his health has declined to the point where, and the business is just not sellable. So he's having what they call a fire sale. Could have been, to some extent, preventable had he done some things, both legally and maybe on the risk side, 2 years prior. And now it's too late. You know, the house is already on fire, so to speak. So these are some of the things that we address, and some of the value that you would get from having a valuation, to look at what the value of it's worth, what your business is worth. Is it properly protected? What direction is the business going compared to its peers? And how you can use that. And one of the things that we commonly find in valuations are pointers on how to bring the value of your business up, because that's commonly what most people want to do, again, unless they're going through a divorce. What are some things that the analysts, the business valuation team, can point out that you might be able to do to bring up the value of your business? And please remember those 3 Ds. Now, I always like to close a meeting where I'm going to give some really practical business building tips that have really nothing to do with valuation. But before I do that, does anybody have any questions or comments on business valuation? There ought to be one question, which is, yeah, go ahead.
How does someone go about choosing the proper person to assist them with a business valuation?
That's the question I was anticipating. Now, if you have a trusted tax firm, tax preparer, most CPA firms have a business valuation process, okay? And they can come in and explain that to you, and typically they have a fee for doing that, but that's one way to go. For larger businesses, there are companies nationally that do small business valuation. This would be for multi-layered companies where there might be stockholders, where there might be multiple locations, multiple ownerships, okay? And typically a valuation runs in that area between $5,000 and $10,000. They get it right, but they do it for a price. Now there's also what's called an informal business valuation that many financial companies, including some of the ones that I work with, that Matt works with, provide, okay? And they do that at no cost whatsoever, okay? Because it's a chance to bring value to a relationship. If you were to invite me or Matt or any advisor to do a business valuation, we have a team for one of the companies we represent that does that. And it's just a way to shake hands and make a good impression. And we're willing to provide that service, knowing that some, but not all the people that we deal with will do business with us. Not everybody needs what we do, but it's a way to make a friend. It may be a way to get introduced to other people, which is why I love to come to these type of events. You just meet nice people and shake hands. We're all small business owners. So you can have your accounting firm do that. You can seek out a national firm to do that, or you can have what would be called an informal. The informal valuation's about this thick. If you pay a lot of money, it'll be this thick. Okay? Yeah. Yes?
If I had a business valuation this year, how soon until I be?
Every 3 years, unless there's a dramatic change.
Define dramatic change.
The industry changes. For example, if you were in the real estate business in 2007, and then we took a look at it again in 2000, at the end of 2008, there'd have been a difference in the value of if you were still in business at all, unfortunately. So that would be one reason. Maybe you're thinking of purchasing another company or a competitor, or joining hands with another company. So having the valuation, the folks that we use, they keep all that information. It's all proprietary. But that way, if we do one valuation and a year or two later I get a call, hey Danny, there's been a change, or I'm thinking of selling the business, I'd like an update. It's much easier to do that after you have all that raw data in there and just adjust it upwards or downwards. But once a year would be probably too often, but every 2 or 3 years, unless there's, again, a market change or a dramatic change in your industry or something like that. Okay? Any other questions? So can I have 5 more minutes? 5 more minutes? Or am I? Okay. So let me give you a couple ideas on business building, a couple tips. Okay, no costs, no obligation. So, when I work with businesses, I try to mentor them and give them some ideas on how to improve business. And one way to do that, I believe very strongly, that the number one advantage that we have as small business owners, number one advantage we have, is we get to meet and interact with our customers. Try calling the chairman of the board a GM if you're car or you're Ford. We actually get to meet the people who do business with us, and that can be used in one of two ways. It can be a business builder, or it can be a business killer. I went to an auto dealership a couple years ago, see if I could get a better deal. I met the owner of the place. He was a very nice guy. I'm not going to mention any names. He was all good until I said, well, if I have any questions, I'll give you a call. You know what he told me? I don't take calls from the customers. My sales manager does. I'm thinking, well, why doesn't he just put that on his door? We're a nice dealer. I do not take calls from my customers. So I didn't buy a car there. That just doesn't, because I do. You want to talk to me? Come on, my name's on the door. So when you answer the telephone, how many people answer the phone? ABC Manufacturing, can I help you? Anything wrong with that? Is that okay? Yeah. Let me ask you to change 2 words. Erica, how do we answer the phone at our office? What did we just change around? She said, Daniel's Financial Group, I can help you. Okay? One's a question, can I help you? The other is a statement, I can help you. You may want to try that back at your place. Just, I can help you, and do it in a tone of voice and teach your staff. My people are great. This is Erica, I can help you. There's nothing wrong with can I help you, don't get me wrong. A little bit of leverage. So we try to do value by adding a little value to every relationship. And this doesn't mean that they got to do business with us. We're trying to make a friend. You got to make a friend before you make a sale or before you get a customer, I believe. So we provide some extra service of value. You know, have anybody been to a restaurant where maybe they didn't have, you wanted fruit instead of French fries, and the server came back and said, you know, I'm going to give you a little something extra, sir. I gave you some extra fruit and cottage cheese because I know you can't eat French fries. Okay? Good thing, maybe a little bit bigger tip, just a little something extra. I was at a restaurant in San Francisco, one of my favorite cities, with a friend of mine, and we got to the place, there was a line out the door. Okay? We had to wait to get in, that's fine. Before you know it, I'm standing there and I feel somebody put something in my hand. There's a guy with a decanter of white wine, and he put a wine goblet in my hand. And he poured it, and everybody that was waiting in line at that restaurant, on a lovely San Francisco evening, by the way, got a glass of wine that wanted one. I asked my buddy Tom, who recently passed away, unfortunately, I said, who is that? Because he was talking, well, that's the owner of the restaurant. Okay? Little something extra. When I go to San Francisco, I'm going back to that restaurant because I remember that little something extra that he gave us. Okay? So try to find little something extra. Erica, in addition to be a very, very good employee, is a professional photographer. We have a room at my office with her photography stuff in there. If you come in for any reason on the way out, if Erica's there, we invite you to have her take a portrait. Okay? And she'll do a very nice job. She'll email it to you. No cost, no obligation of any kind. Little something extra. So every time you drive by our shop, I hope you remember the picture that we took yesterday. And when we conclude a call at our office, when we're on our A game, I always conclude with, I don't say, thank you for calling. Nothing wrong with that. I'm glad you called. Call anytime. Or I'm glad you called. It's always great talking with you. And put a little va-va-voom in your voice, little something extra. What's the worst message that you can get that's a business killer when you call sometimes a big company and you get a recording? Somebody tell me what that recording says.
We appreciate your call.
Your call is very important.
Ah, thank you. If I had a book, if I had my new book, your call is very important to us. We're going to follow up immediately. Now, if you'll just answer a few prompts, we'll be able to help you. What is your blood type? Who did you vote for on Dancing with the Stars? It's crazy. And what do you do after a while? Boom. Okay? You see, they're saying that your call is important to them. But that's not it. That call is not as important to them as it is to you. So if you can't pick the phone, and we can't all do that because of the constraints of our business, I suggest you change your message to say, hi, this is Danny. I can't come to the phone right now. I know it's important to you that we talk. Should I change that around? I know it's important to you that we talk. That's why, before the end of the day, I will return your call. And if I'm unable to, my staff member will. We have the sundown rule at our office that we adhere to. Sundown rule. We don't go home until we return every phone call and answer every email. What's so hard about that? Little something extra. And we let people know that we appreciate their call. And if I don't have an answer, I say, I'm getting back to you. I haven't gotten an answer for you, but I want you to know I know your question is important, and we'll get back to you. So just change it around. Instead of your call is important to us, of course it's important to the company, but it's really more important to the person who picked up the phone and called. Try that and see if you don't get some positive response. It's just a little something extra that they'll remember you for top of mind awareness, so they think of you first. So another thing that you might benefit from, it's just how you approach, and you know, the other two words that I really try to avoid, and I might slip every now and then, that has really become part of our lexicon, unfortunately, when we're dealing with our customers, and those are the two words: no problem. Okay? I'm calling to place $1 million order with you that you'll make a tremendous profit on. No problem. Of course it's no problem. Okay? Not the worst thing you can say. But I would say, congratulations. We're going to make sure that your decision is rewarded. We're going to get that order right out to you. No problem just doesn't seem to, it seems to, diminish the opportunity to connect with people. Last example, we had our sprinkler system put in a few years ago. The guys came out, they did a good job as far as I know. I know nothing about sprinkler systems, but when I got home that night, it worked because I turned it on. There was a knock at the door at 7 o'clock at night. It's the fellow that owns the sprinkler system company, okay? It's Bruner over in Avon. We've become friends. Hey, Mr. Smith, my guys were here today. Do you mind if I check and see how they did? I didn't know he was coming. Do you mind if I look around and check it out? I don't mind at all. He walks around the house, he comes back, knocks on the door. Can I come in the house? I need to go down to the basement. What for? I want to make sure they didn't track your house up, because he makes his guys wipe their shoes. Okay? At the end of the day, when he left, he said, if there's anything that you need, I want you to call me personally. Here's my card. Thank you for your business. That's the kind of people I want to do business with. On his way home, he stopped at the house, checked it out, and wanted to make sure it was done right. You know, the one mistake that he made, he forgot to ask me for something very, very important. A referral. Yeah. What better time? We've got a satisfied customer. I'm blowing. He didn't ask. They were just building out the development then. Hey, Danny, I congratulate you. We're glad to do the work for you. By the way, what about your neighbors? Would you mind introducing me to any of them? Because we want to do the same quality work for them. Yes, sir.
Couldn't that cheapen the relationship some? You're going to do that anyways, and he knows that. I mean, you're going to go brag about your service, and it is so much better on his side if he doesn't ask, because you're going to tell the story back in scenarios like this.
You know, seeking ye shall find. If you don't ask, I've never been offended by somebody who did a good job for me asking me for, and I don't call them referral. I'd rather have an introduction than a referral. That's where we shake hands. I mean, if I haven't done one thing well in my business, it's myself. Sometimes I just forget, and I haven't done enough of that. But the best time to ask for an introduction is when you have a happy customer on your hand, and typically they won't mind, and the worst they can do is say, I'll let you know. But yeah, and hopefully they'll talk it up, and other people will. Because we did that. I passed. The neighbors used them. Hey, Danny, I said, call these guys. They did a great job. So there's some business ideas, some building tips I hope you can use. It's just kind of little something extra, which have no cost, doesn't cost you any extra money to say, can I, or to say, I can help you instead of can I help you. And to say, I'm glad you called, call any time, return calls at night, and so forth.
What did you say instead of no problem? Instead of no problem, to say,
Congratulations.
I say, well, you know, congratulations.
okay.
I know you're going to be happy with your sprinkler system. Congratulations. I know you're going to love that new suit. See, what we try to do is have people thank us because we're doing a good job. So if you come in and I feel I've given you my best shot and you're happy, I'm going to say congratulations that we've completed your business valuation. You're going to find us a valuable asset as we move forward. And what most people do then is they say, well, thank you, Danny. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Jennifer, for the work you've done. See, when you thank me, that's more important than me thanking you. I'm going to congratulate you. And I'm going to say, come in anytime, stop anytime, call anytime, because you know we're going to get back with you. Little something extra. So I wish all of you a happy summer, happy Memorial Day. I'm delighted to have been invited in. I'm available. I'll stick around if you have any questions. And if you want to get more information on business valuation, don't hesitate to call. And don't forget to come to the biggest event that's hit Lorain, Ohio in 50 years, Rockin' on the River. Anybody been to Rockin' on the River in here? Yeah. So we're a sponsor this year, and in my daytime I like to be an advisor, but at night I like to listen to classic rock and roll from the 60s. So God bless you, everybody. Thank you.